Do you find yourself constantly stuck thinking about making music but never actually doing it? You're not alone. Overthinking is one of the biggest creativity killers, but it doesn't have to be. Hello, I'm Stephanie. I am a musician and music mentor, and I help aspiring music creators go from zero music experience to creating songs they're proud of. In this video, we're going to talk about why overthinking happens when it comes to making music, how to shift your mindset, as well as some practical tips to help you focus more on creating rather than thinking. All right, let's jump in. So, there are three big reasons as to why overthinking happens. The first being the fear of not being good enough. Now, this is something I've actually struggled with. And I find that it often comes from comparison. So if I'm comparing myself to my favorite music artist who's been doing this forever and has actually been practicing the right stuff for a long time, of course I'm not gonna have the same sound or have the same skill level as they are. But even though that logically clicks, somehow emotionally it just doesn't get there. So as a result, I often end up procrastinating, saying, oh my goodness, I'm going to put so much effort into this and it's not going to sound the best like what I hear on the radio. If you are experiencing this, this is most definitely very common. Another reason why overthinking might happen is because of a worry about technical skills, like not being skilled enough or not understanding what is required to get to the next step. Now, this is something I've struggled with even even outside of music. It's really with any skill, really. Whenever there's a skill gap, when information is missing, it's really hard to apply that and start actually creating. If there's that skill gap, try to look within yourself to see if that's the reason why you find yourself overthinking. And then the third reason is perfectionism. This kind of goes back a little bit to the first point, but it's a little more of a comparison within ourselves. So perfectionism is when we're trying to get every single sound right, every single beat right, and that's just not realistic. So I started with a problem with perfectionism when I was starting music production or working within a music creation software. I was concerned that my sounds weren't sounding perfect. They weren't lining up exactly with what I had in my head, and this was really frustrating. And if you're experiencing that, that's totally valid. The one thing I did have to do though is really give myself permission to be messy and to create, because that's the main goal that we're trying to reach here. And we'll talk about that a little later. So now let's go ahead and talk about shifting the mindset. How can we go ahead and shift the mindset so that we stop overthinking and start actually making the music so that we can progress in our skill levels and confidence? So first of all, creating music is not about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself and learning through doing. Now, this took me a little while to understand how to shift this mindset, but I found that it really came after I just got so tired of these burdens that I was putting on myself, and I basically just gave up. I'm like, you know what? Forget about making it sound perfect like this. Forget about making it professional quality or whatever. And I just gave myself permission to just create and just release the creative energy and the creative ideas that I had been holding in. That's one thing about perfectionism, especially. It's pretty much the enemy to creativity. And this comes into the next point, which is normalize starting messy. Some of the best creators out there have started with some pretty bad stuff before they progressed and it got better. That's one thing. Like a lot of music creators, a lot of professionals, they have a list of a bunch of the songs they've created, but they're only releasing the very best ones. So some of them might have um, 50 songs that they've created, but they're releasing the best five to us. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, perfectionism is really the enemy of creativity. So when I used to overthink a lot, I really just couldn't bring myself to make music at all. But it's not. But when I started letting go and started actually experimenting and purposely making mistakes to see how they would sound, that's when I started growing as a music creator and as a creative in general. All right, so here are some practical tips to help you stop overthinking. So here's the first thing you want to do is to set a time limit. Setting a time limit, maybe even if it's just 5 minutes, to just spend creating music, creating something, or just um, capturing an idea that you've had. I find that doing this helps to um, get over that initial activation energy. And oftentimes I spend a longer period of time within um, my creative space than what I initially scheduled. Next is to set tiny goals and to focus on the small wins. Kind of similar to setting the time limit, but this is more focused on making results. So let's say I want to create a little tune, maybe a 4-bar tune or a 4-bar melody. That's my goal. All I need to do is just put a melody on paper or within my music creation software, if you will, and that's a win for me. And again, oftentimes I go past that. I go above and beyond just because I've accomplished something and I have the reasoning to keep going. Next is limiting choices. One thing that I find, especially for me, is if I have too many options, nothing's going to get done. The analysis paralysis really comes in strong. The next tip I have for you is to actually get some advice from somebody. If you're not sure which way you want to go, and you have somebody you trust, if you'd like, you can go ahead and ask them, hey, do you have any recommendations for this? How do you feel about it? And even if you don't go with that person's answer, I find that once I get once I get that person's opinion, it's usually the opposite of that. So hey, it helps to narrow it down. Um, and just joining a supportive community that's for beginners specifically, um, where it's a judgment-free zone, um, is really important. So I noticed that there weren't as many of those as there should be, so I decided to create one for you guys. It's totally free. If you want personalized support, beginner lessons that we're currently working on, and a space to grow as a music creator, go ahead and check out the Creative Music Maker Circle. It's in the description and in the pinned comment down below. It's designed to help you take action and to start creating the music of your dreams. Once you join, you'll grab a free gift I created. It will show you how to start from a music listener mindset and move into an actual music maker mindset, and will most definitely help you get through those first steps of becoming a music creator.